pre-age 20, like my teenage years, what mattered to me most was shopping, boys, and clubbing in New York City. I see 10,000 people running towards two little tiny exit doors. Meanwhile, this whole structure is about to collapse. And I said, if I get into the stampede, it's going to collapse. I'm done for. I look over at her and she's like looking into my eyes. She had these piercing blue eyes and she says to me, "Don't worry, darling. If we die here, at least we die with our guru." And I remember in that moment thinking like, lady, you're out of your mind.
I came to this country when I was 16 years old with zero in my pocket. And from there, I worked myself up. I knew what I wanted. You have to have a vision. And you need to have fire in the belly. Today we have a special treat. Mrs. Ayelet Polonsky. She's also my niece. Okay, welcome to the show. It's an honor, for that matter. And you guys, you really have done wonderful for yourself, family-wise, and career, for that matter. And tell us about yourself. Tell us about the journey. And I want to know everything.
Everything. How much time do you have? I love that. I've never been on a podcast with a family member, so this is very unique for me.
Excellent.
Not only am I'm like you're my dad's brother, and you're both best friends. So it's like we're enmeshed. You know, we're enmeshed. Blood.
Call me every 5 minutes.
I know. Oh, trust me, I know. You're like his second wife.
Right.
Okay, tell you about myself. I mean. Look, I grew up in a traditional Jewish household. My parents are proud Jews. And then when I was 20 years old, I woke up to 80-something missed calls, text messages, all saying one after the other, "Rest in peace, Dawn. We'll miss you, Dawn. Your memory is a blessing." And then I realized that they're talking about my childhood friend, Danielle. And at 20 years old, I hadn't lost an immediate family member, a close friend. Like, it was the first real rude awakening that showed me I'm not here forever. What I have can be taken instantaneously.
At 20 years old?
At 20 years old. That was my spiritual
You had a rude awakening.
Yeah.
Remember, some people have it at 40, at 50, at 70, at 80.
Yeah, so I had my midlife crisis at 20. So
Wow.
I grew up real quick, real fast.
Ew.
And, those types of I called it a spiritual awakening because it really awakened me to the big existential question that I think everybody needs to be asking themselves, which is, why am I here and what is my purpose? And that is really what awakened in me in that moment. And I remember thinking, like, viscerally in my body, tomorrow's not promised. So whatever it is whatever amount of time that I have here to live, I'm going to make the absolute best of it. And I'm going to be and I endeavored on this journey to find out, like, why was I placed here? So from there, I ended up going to Barnes and Nobles, and I went straight to the self-help section, and I picked every single book off the shelf. The first book that literally fell off the shelf as I was walking was a book called Buddha by Deepak Chopra. You grow up in a Jewish, traditional, secular home in America. You're not really awakened.
You were looking for no religion?
I wasn't looking for anything. I was open. I was curious. I was willing to just let, we'll call it the universe, guide me to the very next thing, right? And so that next thing that I was guided to was a book called Buddha. So I started learning about mindfulness and meditation from this book. I started understanding how the mind works. And that led me back to the self-help section, to which I started reading of, like, the power of now, about being present, about transcendental meditation, yoga. I got really deep in this more Eastern path.
So you grew up overnight?
I'm still growing up.
Right.
I'm still growing up. I'm a mother of...
Sure, it was overnight. Your mindset changed 180 degrees.
Oh my gosh, completely. Like pre-age 20, like my teenage years, what mattered to me most was shopping, boys, and clubbing in New York City. Like that was what was most important, like popularity, whatever teenage girls, strive after.
Okay, right.
Mm-hmm. And then at age 20, it was like all of that just went down the drain. I after reading a bunch of books, by the time I was 22, I had immersed myself in so much spiritual wisdom, but I felt that I had reached a glass ceiling at that point. I felt that there's so much more for me to actually experience, not just read in a book. I wanted the information to become embodied, to be mine. So, I got introduced to a guru in India who, and
You flew all the way to India.
at age 22, I sold all of my Gucci purses, Chanel, Burberry scarves, everything.
Amazing.
I sold all of my material
Right.
to pay for this trip because, my parents, they weren't going to necessarily finance.
Huh?
They weren't there. If you want to go to Israel, fine, but going to India to learn.
I don't blame them. I don't blame them.
You don't blame them, of course. Yeah, for sure. I don't blame them either. I'm a mom now. I don't blame them either. But when I have something, I'm very stubborn. So when I have something in my mind,
Wow.
nothing can stop me.
Nothing can stop you.
Nothing can stop me. I'm like it. So I got on a plane at age 22, and I thought that I was going to just go to a 21-day yoga meditation retreat, get the experience. 21 days led to a 6-year relationship that I had with this guru. The guru for 6 years was my teacher. I spent a large part of those 6 years living in India, studying from him, immersing myself in Eastern.
How can you afford that? Where did you stay?
So from,
You live
so from there, I think I get it from my dad. It's like that mentality that I can do anything I put my mind to. But I pursue it. When I put my mind to something, there's an actual pursuing that comes with the desire.
Right.
And so I decided at age 22 that I was going to learn how to become a coach. So I started coaching people all over the world, and very quickly from there took the guru's teachings and led retreats all over the world. So I was leading women in these big long
Right. How did you make a living? You didn't have a job, right? You were working there for six years, back and forth, back and forth. It gets very expensive, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, but so that's how I did it. I was charging people to be their coach. I was leading retreats, making money, and at the same time, I was simultaneously learning and enhancing my craft and deepening my skill set. And so, and until this day, I'm enhancing and deepening my skill set. So those 6 years were supported by the work that I was doing for people in the world. Anyways, so fast forward 6 years, I was immersed in.
Now you're 28 years old.
Exactly. And I attended the largest festival of consciousness in India called Kumbh Mela.
How about it?
You heard about it. And so in the middle of Kumbh Mela, you're in the desert. It's 50 million Hindus.
Wow.
And me. Okay, I was determined to become enlightened. And we were in the meditation hall. We were 10,000 people under a tent, under this specific tent. And all of a sudden, in the middle of the hall, in the middle of a deep rest, the walls of the tent began ripping open. Waters began flooding in. And that's when we all realized, all 10,000 of us, that we were in the middle of a very real tornado. Like
you see in the Bible.
Like something like you say, yeah. It was like apocalyptic. I don't know what to call it, but and so I see 10,000 people running towards two little tiny exit doors. Meanwhile, this whole structure is about to collapse. And I said, if I get into the stampede, it's going to collapse. I'm done for. So instead, I slid under the foundation of the tent. I was on myself outside. I'm mud from head to toe. And we were in the desert, remember? So there was no stable structure for shelter. And you see like metal poles flying, debris everywhere, people yelling and running. And I see in the distance a massive transportation truck. So I slid under the truck. Meanwhile, like the mud, the waters are rising. It's chaos. And I'm sitting under the truck, and I'm begging for my life. And I was like, I don't want to die. And I'm crying. And all of a sudden, I hear a woman. She must have slid under the truck after me. And I look over at her, and she's like looking into my eyes. She had these piercing blue eyes. And she says to me, "Don't worry, darling. If we die here, at least we die with our guru." Oof. And I remember in that moment thinking, like, lady, you're out of your mind.
Right.
I'm in the wrong place at the wrong time. I did not come here.
You can't. That's not for you.
It's not for me. And so I closed my eyes and I said, God, if you're listening, I need a miracle. I don't know where I'm meant to go or what I'm meant to do, but I surrender to your divine guidance. And I kid you not, within 30 minutes of saying those words out loud, the tornado stopped. It got quiet. And it was a matter of a couple months of transitioning and feeling in my bones, I'm not meant to be here anymore. I found myself in India in a meditation, and a voice keeps trying to interrupt my meditation. I keep pushing that voice away. The voice keeps getting louder until finally I just entertained the voice, and it said, Ayelet, leave this country now, go to Israel, and never look back. So within 30 minutes, I had a flight booked. Next morning, I was on a plane. I arrived in Israel.
And the rest is history.
And the rest is history. I mean,
I want to talk about the time where you became Baltuva. And that's very big. People go back to the roots, and they say this is the way to go, and very restricted life, if I may. I don't know, no judgment here, yes. What made you become Baltuva? For that matter, what makes other people to become Baltuva? In your opinion?
It's a really good question. I can speak for myself and maybe speak for others who resonate with this. For me, from age 20, like I said, I was a seeker, right? I don't feel like everything, you look at the world, you look at the mountains, the rivers, the oceans, the sunsets, the butterflies, the animal life, and you look at it, and for me, I can't look at all of creation and think this is all just one big accident, right? You even look at how the digestive system works, how the body heals itself. You look at how, even look at an orange, the orange has a peel to protect the part that we can eat. There's a divine intelligence, right? To take religion out of it for a second, there's a divine intelligence that's orchestrating.
Somebody higher power looking over us.
Someone had a really good idea and created all of existence, and it's just too miraculous for me to not say, I need to get to the bottom of creation. What created all of this? I want to get to know that creator, right? And I'm not saying that, you said what made me a Baltuva. So a Baltuva, just to define for people who are listening, is someone who is not necessarily born who's born Jewish, but not necessarily religious, and then becomes or chooses the more religious path later in life.
Right.
And so for me, it was like after spending, 8 years seeking, like genuinely seeking, looking for meaning and purpose, the moment I got to Israel, it was like, I felt like my soul was at home. I don't know how any other way to put it. It felt like all of the work that I had done led me to that moment for me to acknowledge, oh, this is the place where my soul feels at rest. And it just made a lot of sense to me. A lot of what I was learning there, and don't get me wrong, there are a lot of rules. It can feel restricting. I'm not going to deny that. But there was something at the depth of it that when you start learning Cabala, right? When you start learning the mystical essence behind all of creation,
right,
it puts all the pieces together.
You study Cabala?
Yeah.
Tell us one thing that you want to share with people, with the audience. One thing that stands out in Cabala.
So for me, Cabala is a blueprint. It's just a divine blueprint. The same way we need a map to get from point A to point B, right? You're driving from Miami to Tampa. You put in Siri, you put in Google Maps. Right? It gets you from point A to point B. Cabala is a cosmic blueprint. It's not only just a blueprint of the human design, but it's a blueprint of the cosmic design. So it's like, okay, I want to understand what I'm struggling with. I can open up Cabala as a sacred blueprint to help me heal something in my body that needs to be healed, for example. Right? I want to understand how the world got created. You open Cabala as a map for deeper understanding.
Amazing. So this is your therapy, right? Mm-hmm. Therapist, and I know you love to manifest too.
Yes, that's right.
You love doing that. How do you balance family and career and work and you have time for fun? All these things, it's like a lot of for the brain, too much to, right?
It is a lot. It's a really good question, and I'm still trying to learn how to figure out the right balance because I'm juggling 10 plates simultaneously. But one thing, for me, it's about having a morning practice, that time is sacred and it belongs to me. I don't wake up 0 to 100 into my workday. For me, it's like people ask me, how do you get so much done in one day? And I think the first thing in the morning, you owe that to yourself. For me, it's going to the gym. It's having a meditation practice or a breath work practice. That for me is number one. But also, it's like you said, how do I balance work with fun? For me, it's about doing what you love. I don't do my work because it feels like work. If it felt like work, I wouldn't be able to do it. I'm not someone who can work hard. I like to play a lot. And so the work that I do has to feel like play. It has to feel fulfilling. It has to be rewarding, right? Otherwise, I'm doing it for the wrong reasons. I don't just work to make money. I work because it is deeply, deeply fulfilling on a soul level. And the money part is nice too.
But what kind of message you want to give the young people, the youngster out there in the 20s, maybe 30s, that they have to punch a clock 9 to 5 because they have to make a living, but not necessarily happy. In other words, do you do it because you're happy, because you want to do it, or because you want to pay the bills? Sometimes you don't have a choice. You just have to go. You have to show up to work so you can pay the bills.
That's true. And I work with a lot of people who come to me who are in this position, they're not fulfilled in their work. And I would never tell someone who comes to me who's working a 9 to 5, quit your job today. No, it's about that might be a level of safety, and it's a resource for people that's really important. But if you can allow something to be a resource, like you need to pay the bills, understood, but then simultaneously while you're going to work, set out on an inner journey as well. It's not just about the outside exertion.
After 5, guess what? After 5 or weekend.
After 5 or week, is it what you're saying? That's when they do the inner work?
That they should no. If you want to do something that you love doing, a passion, you want to develop it after 5. Do not interrupt with the 9 to 5 jobs because you need to pay the bills. Exactly.
But there's a certain amount of time for inner exploration, understanding what lights you up, and there's a deep inner excavation process that a person has to go to even understand and get clarity. People come to me, they don't even know what they want to do or why they want to do what they want to do. So first, getting clear on a soul level. What was your soul put here to do in this lifetime? Because I guarantee if you look back at age 120, clocking in the job 9 to 5 that didn't fulfill you is not what your soul was here to do.
I like it. I like what you're saying. I agree with that. October 7 changed your way of thinking, and I know that you decided I'm gonna go back to New Jersey. And you want to talk about that?
Yeah. So it's October 7th. It changed my entire life, but there's a lot to be said about it, and I think it's important. So thank you for the question. It's interesting because Friday before Shabbat comes in, I always turn my phone off and I put it out of sight in a cabinet somewhere so I can't see it. This Friday, October 6th, I don't know what came over me, but I guess I was in a rush preparing for Shabbat, and I left my phone on in the kitchen on the counter.
How about it?
Okay, so I wake up in the morning. My kids at the time were 4 and 2 years old, 2 and 4 years old. I wake up Saturday morning, and my husband's already in the living room with the kids, and he looks at me and he goes, your best friend who's Israeli and works with the government, your best friend just called you. Now, this friend of mine knows not to call me on Shabbat. So it was already weird that he's calling me on Shabbat morning. And I was like, that's odd. 2 minutes later, my mom, who's in America, calls me. And I said, something's wrong. So I called my best friend because he's got insider information. And he says, we're under attack. Run to a shelter as soon as you possibly can.
Oh, mine. Wow. And you were in Jerusalem this time?
I was in Jerusalem at this time.
It wasn't really under attack, right? It was mostly Gaza, was south.
Yes, but the first few days we had no idea. The news was saying that the terrorists could be on foot invading Jerusalem. We had no idea where they were. The information, all we knew was we're under attack. That's literally all we knew.
You need to know.
That's all you need to know. And not only that, but for the next couple of days, we're hearing sirens, which mean you have 30 seconds to run to a bomb shelter. So I'm waking up my babies in the middle of their naps, in the middle of the night. and we're running to bomb shelters, and you hear the explosion over your head, and you can literally feel the earth shake, right? So my entire nervous system went into fight flight, right? I looked at, so there was one night, it was October 9th, a couple days later, October 9th,
Right.
Abiel, he was 4 years old at the time, he wakes
Right.
up in the middle of the night shaking.
Right.
And he's like, Ima, and I go to him, and he's like, Ima, will you protect me? Will you protect me?
Wow. Grace. Wow.
And my heart just sunk, because in that moment, I didn't even feel like I could protect myself, let alone my babies.
Right.
You know? And so I looked at Beryl, and I said, Beryl, my husband, and I said, you know, for the sake of our kids,
Gotta go.
get us the first flight out of here.
And it took you some 46 hours to get back home, right?
It took us 40 hours to fly from Israel. We were at the Ben Gurion airport for 10 hours with the kids in this chaotic state, because they didn't know if, like, flights were being canceled. They said your flight might be canceled.
Right.
Then
right.
we were in Dubai.
Wow.
You know, that was a whole other story that happened in Dubai. In security, the security
Right,
person said,
right,
you know,
right.
whatever. It was we won't get into the details, but and then, yeah, so it was a 40-hour journey. We finally landed in California at my in-laws. And I remember on the flight to America from Israel, I looked out the window as the plane was taking off, leaving Israel. And I looked over at Beryl and I said, the first opportunity we have to come back home, we're coming back home. Like, I felt so like I wanted to be back with my people. We land in America with the idea that we're going to be in America for just 2 weeks. 2 weeks turned into 2 months. 2 months turned into 4 months. At that point, one door opened after another, And I remember feeling like God, we'll say God, universe, source, whatever you want to call it. God, I don't know why you had us leave, but one thing that I'm holding on to that I know is it's going to be good for us. It's going to be good for us. Like, I held on to that as like my North Star, that it can't be for nothing that we're in America now. And we had to turn our whole lives upside down overnight.
Exactly. Family is anywhere, everywhere. It doesn't matter as long as you're together. It could be anywhere.
Exactly.
Together.
Exactly.
That's where family is.
Exactly.
Right.
And then one thing led to another, and we were just shown. It was like God opened up door after door after door for Beryl and I, and it became very clear early on, like within 5 months, we said, we have some big work to do in America right now. It's not the time to go back to Israel. So we packed up our stuff and got a house, and now we're in America, and we're holding a whole community and events and gatherings all the time.
Right. Let me ask you a question. Who do you think is the most inspired person in your life? I think I know, but I'm going to let you answer that.
Well, look, I know my dad's going to be listening to this podcast, so we'll start by saying...
You better say it's him. No, hey, listen, there's no judgment here.
Look, I would say I became who I am because of him. I became who I am because of him. We didn't always get along, but I think that's any parent-child relationship, but I think the areas where we bumped heads were the exact areas that were the biggest breakthroughs for me, the biggest turning points, the biggest lessons for me. He always saw my greatness. He still always sees my greatness.
High regards.
He held me at such a high regard. So
Still. Right.
So even if I resisted it growing up because I always just wanted to be enough the way I am and not push to this higher standard.
Right.
It's like him seeing the possibility in me always allowed me indirectly.
In you over and over again.
Totally.
Right.
He always saw a vision for me greater than what I see in myself till this day. So. And
how about now that you live very close by? It feels good, right? Be next to the family.
Oh, it's part of the reason why we're here. Like the type of work we're doing in the world, Beryl and I, we couldn't do it without their support.
Tell us about it. I know that you have people for a weekend, and I know sometimes you leave Beryl alone and you travel for your own business. I know it's important for you because you will not leave the children. Share with the audience, please.
Yeah, well, I'm a firm believer that a mother can not only be a mother. And I think a lot of moms lose their identity in motherhood. And look, for
Totally
some
agree with you.
and
Right.
for
So,
some moms, maybe that is their life's mission. My mission, my purpose in this lifetime is to love my kids with the amount of pie space I have available for them. But there's a lot of pieces to my pie. And if I give up those other pieces of the pie that make up what I call my whole identity,
right,
then I'm going to feel like I'm abandoning myself.
right,
And I
right.
also think it's really important for my kids, for their sake, when they're older, to see, oh, mommy has a life outside of us. Because I think a lot of kids, they feel smothered by their moms, right? And so I'm not a neglectful mom, but I'm also not a smothering mom. I
You don't
think
want to be tied in the kitchen and have 10 children.
it's not my path. It's
That's
not my path.
you have a calling. You want to be a parent, but you also want to give back to the world.
Yeah, and I see if I could help, if in the, let's say I have to pay someone to come clean my house for 5 hours a day, it's a value proposition. What I could do from a position of service to others in those 5 hours and the money I could make in those 5 hours doesn't make sense for me to be in the kitchen if that's not my calling, if that's not my purpose. Does that make sense? And again, for some women it is. So I'm not knocking. For some women that they love being home and in the kitchen and with their kids. And there's a part of me that I'm like, that's beautiful. I wish I had more of that, but it's just not in my architecture.
You know, I want to share. I was when I was in Israel. I came over for Friday night dinner, and at your Friday night dinners, you go around the table, and everybody tells a story about their life. I think it's beautiful. Do you still do that? Do you still have Friday night dinner with people coming in?
Oh yeah, we have that plus so much more. So we have Friday night dinners where we host people, and for me it's like you can go to a dinner party and have superficial conversation. How was the weather? How are your kids? Like
Right.
you know, but for me to go into a question that opens people up, like for Beryl and I, it's really important that our home is a place where people feel they belong and that they feel safe coming to. And most people don't have a person or a group of people where they can share what's real for them in a vulnerable way, right? Like what's going on in your life? What are you struggling with? What are your successes? What's going on in your life?
And do you judge people if they're religious, not religious, Jews, not Jews?
Not at all. Not at all. Judge? No. Who am I to judge? I have no right to judge. I wouldn't want someone judging me. Who am I to judge?
You welcome everybody.
Yeah, I mean, look, our communities are predominantly Jewish, so we get every type of Jew, from secular to ultra Orthodox. And if we've had people who are not Jewish, it just happens to be the majority of people who are in our community happen to be Jewish.
Got it. What's next to you for the next 10 years? Where do you see yourself? What do you want to see happening?
Okay, so I want to see exactly what I'm doing, but on a much bigger, expanded level. Right. So it's like I love what I do. I feel so fulfilled. It's like I feel like I have no choice. I have to do what I do. Working with people on a soul level and helping them see their greatness and their potential, it lights me up like nothing else in the whole wide world. And so to be able to do that, but eventually right now we're hosting a lot of things in our home. I would love a much bigger, expanded, space for retreats, for larger groups of people, maybe week-long retreats. So doing what we're doing, but a much bigger, expanded level. Eventually, I published a book when I was really, really young, so it's like super outdated. I'd love to publish another book. And yeah, for me, it's like I want to make a lot of money because I want to be in service in a way that only a certain amount of money. I am in service with what I have now, and I'm very grateful for what I have now.
You like money.
I like money because of its utility value. Like I love what it offers. Whenever I make money, I should say, Ayal, when I make money, I'm always looking to Beryl and I'm like, how can we use this money to be of better service to our community?
Great.
So
of course. And Beryl agree with your cause, with your calling, and he support you for that matter, right?
We're in it together.
That's very important to other two people.
It's not only that he supports it. We're two conductors on the same train. Yeah, we're doing it together. We host.
You complete each other. Let's say that.
Totally. We're very different, but it's like the yin and the yang, like two puzzle pieces. He's
Right.
a lot more practical, logistics. He likes spreadsheets. He likes breaking things down, where I'm just more like,
Mensch, by the way, he's a mensch. You're very lucky. You're both really very lucky because you found each other.
we did. Yeah.
If people want to reach out to you, can they reach out to you for anything, advice or therapy, stuff like that?
Yeah, so I actually just created, I launched, I'm doing a lot, I do work a lot with one-on-one with people, in coaching and therapy, with manifestation. But we also I spent the last year putting all of the best of my content, my classes, my workshop, my processes, my meditations into an app. So I have an app now. It's called the Manifestation Method. So for anyone who wants to go deep into this work and I've helped women manifest their soulmates in a short period of time, manifest financial abundance, manifest physical health and healing. So there's that. And also my Instagram, I offer a lot of free content.
You can give information, how to get in touch with you, please.
Amazing. I can send you links.
No, you can tell it now in the...
So if you go on Instagram, Ayelet Polonsky, in Instagram, you'll see also just the app on there's a community page on the app where you get your questions answered daily by me. That's the Manifestation Method. Mm-hmm.
I think the world needs more people like you. That you feel like you want to give back to the world because you had a calling. It took you many years, six years of your life, which you can't get back. But at the end of the day, you landed. You found your calling.
Yeah, but Eyal, it's really like when I look into someone's eyes and it's the person who comes to me and they feel broken inside, and I look at them and I see their potential. I don't see their brokenness. I see their possibility. And then they work with me for a certain amount of time. I can see the moment where the light in their eye turns on. It's a spark. It's a spark. It's like this light in their eye turns on. It's like I was put here to help people remember who they are.
Agreed.
Remember who they are.
Very nice.
It's the soul
Do you
spark.
have any question for me? I think this is the end.
Well, okay, fine. I'd love to ask you some questions.
Sure.
So, you've built a degree of success for yourself, obviously. I'm curious because one thing that I teach people when it comes to building success is that it's 80% mindset, 20% action. That 20% action could still be a lot of action, but if the mindset's not there, you have millionaires, billionaires.
It's 99.999% mindset.
99.9% mindset. So what is that mindset that's required?
Well, thank you. I wake up in the morning. By the way, it's a beautiful day, sunny sky, and I always want to get better. I want always to go to the next level. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I don't think I'm fulfilled until I get better every single day. What I'm doing. Mm-hmm. So, for example, we like to find we find like it's an art, literally art. When we find a building and we want to close on a building, property, community, 300 units, 400 units, and take that community and make it even better because we love to service a tenant, and that's what we do. And this is for us, Capity. So, but we love the idea that to take something and make it better.
Okay, so what is the mindset behind being a successful person? Meaning, like, I imagine you have to really believe that it's possible for yourself, right?
The mindset is I want my brain to work nonstop. When I'm 6 feet under, okay, I stopped, okay. And if I don't have that mindset that what, I want to accomplish. We want to expand the portfolio, but beside that, I want to accomplish more. I want to feel that I'm helping people. I want to employ people. I want to help I want to give jobs to people, benefits, bonuses, make them feel good, make them feel better about themselves. Okay.
So what is because I imagine that the level at which you're functioning can lead to burnout also. I know for me, sometimes it leads to burnout because my mind is also on a lot. And if I'm not careful, and then I can get to a burnout stage. So what do you do for self-care, or are you just nonstop and it's?
No, listen, I have my jacuzzi, I have my beach, I go away every now and then, but my biggest calling right now is on social media. I've had like 25, maybe 30 years experience, and by the way, your father, for that matter, big influencer in my life at that time, big, huge. I'm going to write a book about it too as well. So, of course, my wife is number one, and she, my better half. I don't think I'll be here without her. She really, really, really helped me to get to the next level every single year. It's
So
amazing.
how did
Very powerful woman, very strong personality for that matter.
no, Felice is wonderful, and I'm wondering
Right.
because I know Beryl and I work a lot with couples. And one thing we see is when the wife is not fulfilled or satisfied with what the husband is doing, she can beat him over the head with the hammer, and that has the opposite effect, because then the man's ego feels crushed and he feels like a little dog with his tail between his legs.
Right.
What did Felice do to build you up without putting you down?
Oh, it's a very good question. So what she does basically, we look at she makes me look back at my past history and to make sure not to return, not to do the same mistakes I've done in the past. In a way of a constructive criticism, not to put down. Does that make sense?
Totally. But do you receive it? Do you receive it as
Absolutely. I have no ego. I check my ego at the door. My job is to get better every day, and if I'm wrong, I'm the first one to come back and admit, you know what, I made a mistake. Let's get better from here.
Mm-hmm.
Very much a self-reflect. When I don't have too many friends. In fact, I have very little, if any, because a lot of people do not know how to self-reflect. Plus, they're very negative. I don't have time for this. We're not perfect. We're gonna make mistake. We have to be able to self-reflect. Make sense?
Yeah, totally.
So what we do right now in social media, we want to give back to the world and teach people what not to do in real estate so they don't lose money, and what to do in order to get better. That's what we do. That's my calling.
100%. So do you,
I don't charge for that.
you don't charge for that?
Zero.
Okay, so I'm going to call you.
Anytime.
Okay. It's interesting because the work that I do, I have a whole methodology where I teach people step by step how to shift their mindset, their energy.
Good job.
It's a big job.
Big one.
It's a big job, but you're living it, right? You grew up in Israel. You didn't grow up with wealth as a child.
I grew up with a 500 square feet apartment.
I know.
Your dad will tell you, okay?
I know. I've been to that apartment. I know. You don't have to. He doesn't have to tell me.
Right.
It's like the three of you were sharing one little bedroom.
Exactly.
Right. So you didn't come from big beginnings, yet you came to America when you were what, 15?
16.
16? Okay. And you hustled. You hustled to get to
Non-stop. Because failure is not an option.
failure. So see, I love that. Failure is not an option. I think. So what happens if someone comes and criticizes you? How do you take that criticism?
So it depends on the person. Because I can tell if that person really does it to hurt my feeling or to make me feel better. Right?
Yeah.
If that person doesn't like me in the first place, forget about him or her. You know what I mean? So I will always take a constructive criticism because I know that person wants me to get better.
Amazing. And do you ever let it get to your heart though? Meaning, does it ever, I imagine, I know for me, it's I have to be like Teflon. Anything that comes at me that tells me I'm not capable, I have to swat it like a fly swatter. You know?
I can't. Listen, do you know how many fires I got to put out every day? Okay.
Right.
You know what? You just do it, and I thank God every day that I give me another day. Right? Every day above ground is a blessing. No one. I want to thank you very much for coming in. It's a true pleasure. It was a real honor having you on my podcast, and I want to see you soon.
Yeah. I'm coming. Well, I'm coming to visit. Hopefully, I come to visit you first. That's the plan. Thank you so much, Eyal. Love you.
Thank you so much for tuning in. If you enjoyed the content, go ahead and subscribe, like the video, and share it with someone who will appreciate it. See you again in the next one.